The country of Nepal is most famously known for the wondrous Himalayan mountains. In this small country, situated between its enormous neighbors of China to its north and India to its south, reside nearly 30 million inhabitants, with 75% of them living in remote mountainous areas. According to the World Factbook, nearly 40% of the population is unemployed, and about a quarter of the Nepali live below the poverty line. The people living in the remote Himalayan villages are among some that face the most dire living conditions. In these villages, they lack basic resources such as sanitation, appropriate cooking facilities, light, water, food, and heat, and have limited means of attaining an education. Rural Integrated Development Services Nepal, known as RIDS-Nepal, is a social, non-profit, non-government organization that has been helping the Nepali people since its inception in 2002. The organization's objective is to improve the quality and standard of life of poor and underdeveloped communities in remote Himalayan villages through long-term, holistic community development projects in close partnership with local communities. This instructional video project will focus on the smokeless metal stove, which is called SMS for short, and is one of the 4 integrated parts of RIDS-Nepal's family of 4 holistic community development concept. The SMS was developed by RIDS-Nepal as a contextualized solution to improve women's cooking conditions by enabling them to cook their traditional meals easier, faster, and with less firewood consumption. It eliminates the issue of respiratory diseases faced by these villagers due to the in-home open fireplaces used for cooking and keeps children safe from getting burned. There are 3 alternative cooking methods used in Nepali homes. The first is still the most common and consists of metal racks situated over open fire pits. These open pits pose significant dangers to children who can fall into the fires. Additionally, some families make self-made stoves out of mud. The third option is a stove made in China out of thin metal. Although this stove is better than the first 2 options, it still poses health dangers that are addressed with the RIDS-Nepal SMS. All 3 of the alternative stoves allow smoke to be generated into the home. Here you see a RIDS-Nepal employee using a device that measures carbon monoxide levels. According to the World Health Organization, indoor smoke from the burning of solid fuels such as wood, coal, and crop waste contains pollutants that can lead to respiratory problems in young children and a variety of health issues in adults, including serious heart disease, stroke, and lung cancer. In 2012, indoor air pollution from open fireplace cooking with biomass, dung, and coal was responsible for 4.3 million premature deaths worldwide and attributed to 7.7% of the global mortality rate. The smokeless metal stove will give you many benefits. With the 2 small burners and 1 large burner, you can cook lentils, rice, and a vegetable dish at the same time, and the metal used for the stove can handle heavy pots. The SMS cooks so fast and the food is so tasty. You add firewood into the SMS and the fire burns strong and cooks fast, with no problem at all. You add only water to the food and firewood in the combustion chamber, and the SMS cooks the food without any problems. Very easy and without hassle. If you want roti instead of rice, the roti slot allows you to toast your roti while the lentils and vegetables are cooking. The RIDS-Nepal staff asks, "What can you cook on this new SMS?" The man answers, "1 burner, we can cook rice, on the 2nd, lentils, and on the 3rd, a vegetable dish." They then ask, "What about baking roti?" And the man answers, Roti you can bake here, as he opens the roti slot. The RIDS staff asks, "And where do you cook the lentils?" And the man answers, "Here you cook the lentils with the pot, and with the small kettle as we have here, now you can heat water, and here we cook right now potatoes." With the stainless steel hot water tank on the side, you will always have clean, hot water for cooking, boiling a tea, cleaning, and washing your children's hands and faces. Because there is a door closing the combustion chamber and airflow valves on the door and the damper, it helps to cook the meal with the minimum amount of firewood. This means that you won't need to gather firewood as often as you do now. The staff asks, "How much firewood did you use to burn per week with the open fireplace?" The man answers, "We used to burn 3 to 4 loads of firewood." The staff continues, "After you install this SMS, how much firewood do you use now per week?" The man responds, "Since we installed this SMS, we use about 1 load of firewood per week." The staff then questions, "If you use so much less firewood, what do you do with the spare time?" And the man's response is, "We wash our clothes, clean our homes, and look more after the children." The SMS also addresses many safety issues. A problem with the open fire pit is that children could fall into the fire and severely burn themselves, which is not the case with the RIDS-Nepal Smokeless metal stove. If a child touches the SMS when it is being used, they will immediately feel that it is hot. With the open fireplace, sometimes even clothes which were hung up on the wall started to burn as the embers flew around in the room from the open fire. Sometimes even the grass we dried started to burn. But now, with the exhaust pipe, it is much better and safer. We sit comfortable and safe and can eat and drink in peace. After converting to the smokeless metal stove, you'll become healthier and have cleaner homes, with the women having more time because less firewood has to be gathered. The RIDS staff asks, "How long ago did you install this SMS?" The man responds, "About 12 or 13 years ago." The staff continues, "After you installed this SMS, what has actually changed and improved?" And the man responds, "Since then, we don't suffer anymore from indoor smoke, and the home inside is also not black anymore as previously with the open fireplace. The clothes are not dirty or black anymore from the smoke, and we can cook the food easily. Also, hot water can be generated, so all is very good." The RIDS staff then questions, "What benefits did you get from this SMS?" And the man responds, "Less firewood consumption, no smoke inside the home, the eyes are not burning and hurting anymore, and when we cough, no black phlegm comes out anymore, and all is much more clean. And the house is far more comfortable to live in now." The RIDS staff talks to a family who has had the SMS for 13 years, and they ask, "The old open fireplace stove has given lots of problems and suffering to the family, and especially to the women, right?" The man answers, "Yes, the old open fireplace gave lots of suffering, and thus this SMS is still very good." He then looks towards the RIDS staff and says, "Listen, young man, this SMS is still very good and useful, and we need this kind of SMS. Our love for this SMS has not dwindled at all after so many years, and we know that you have a love for us local people. RIDS-Nepal has come for us people." He continues to praise RIDS-Nepal and its staff that they brought light, the SMS, and other improvements to the village, and that they are very happy for all that. He goes on to say, "Who else would come to such a remote place and show their love and compassion?" He praises RIDS-Nepal, who has brought them such positive life changes and the ability and technology to grow more food, such as cauliflower and other vegetables. He thanks RIDS-Nepal for giving them food and other improvements. Here you see a nearly complete smokeless metal stove. It is only missing the exhaust pipes that go over the damper and outside of the house, which allows smoke to escape the home. From the back of the stove, we see the mud chamber. When filled with mud, it creates a thermal mass which protects the SMS metal, making it last for many more years. It also allows the heat to be directed toward the burners rather than toward the bottom of the stove where heat is not needed. From the front, you can see all the major parts except the exhaust pipes, the combustion chamber door, the dynamic air valve, the damper, the 3 burners with lids, the roti slot, and the stainless steel water tank with its lid. As shown, the lids for the burners and water tank can be easily taken off. In addition to the stove parts that you received from RIDS-Nepal, you will need 6 items to assemble and install the stove: a pick to dig dirt, a jug of water and a bucket, a large bowl, a fixed size wrench or a slide wrench, and a wooden plank. We are now ready to begin the installation process. You will do the first steps of assembling the stove outside. Afterward, you will carry the stove inside the home to complete the last installation steps. The first step in the insulation process is to make mud, which will be added to the stove's mud chamber. This helps to prevent heat loss and directs heat towards the burners rather than toward the bottom of the stove where heat is not needed. First, find an area of dirt that has no stones. Using a pick, dig into the ground to loosen the dirt. If you find stones in the dirt, remove them. With a bucket, pour water over the dirt and mix it with the pick to make smooth mud. Continue this process until you have enough mud to place into the mud chamber, which is about 20 kilograms. Now place the mud into a bowl and carry it to the stove. Before you fill the mud chamber, you must remove the dynamic air valve on the stove door by turning it counterclockwise. We do this so that it does not become damaged while filling the mud chamber. Now you need to turn the stove so that the combustion chamber door is facing downward, with the big burner closer to the ground. This exposes the mud chamber. To fill the mud chamber, take the mud and press it toward the bottom of the mud slot. Periodically, the stove needs to be lifted by 2 people while on its side and hit in a slanted forward position against a wooden plank to force the mud to slide down to the bottom of the chamber. So that you do not damage the combustion chamber door, this needs to be done at about a 25-degree angle slanted forward of the top edge with the burners. Continue to add mud, then again hit the stove in a slanted forward position against a wooden plank. Repeat this process 6 to 8 times until the mud chamber is filled to the top. Check if the entire mud chamber is filled by putting your hand through the burner and exhaust holes and knocking on the metal with your knuckles. Acoustically, you can hear if there is an air pocket because it sounds hollow instead of solid. If there are air pockets, you will need to add more mud and press it again. When the mud chamber is filled and there are no air pockets, put the stove back down with the burners facing upward. Now we will attach the damper with the pre-installed butterfly valve to the stove's exhaust hole. The adjustable butterfly valve is used to regulate the flow of the escaping smoke gases. You will need 4 sets of screws and nuts to attach the damper to the stove. The screws and nuts come as sets put together, so you first need to unscrew the nut by turning it counterclockwise until it detaches from the screw. Place the damper over the exhaust hole, which is the smallest of the 4 holes on the stove. When facing the combustion chamber's door, the butterfly valve's adjustment handle should be positioned perpendicular to the stove's left side. Make sure to align the screw holes on the damper with the screw holes on the stove. Take a screw in your hand, put your hand through the damper or through one of the small burner holes and put the screw through a hole, making sure that it goes through the screw holes on the stove and the damper. Also make sure the screw's head is inside the stove so that the nut can be mounted from outside. Now take the nut and place it on top of the screw and turn the nut clockwise to reattach it to the screw. Repeat this process with the other 3 screw sets. A fixed-sized wrench or slide wrench should be used to tighten the nuts. Do not use pliers because you will damage the edges of the nuts. Now we will attach the water tank. You will need 3 screw sets. As you did with the other screws, you first need to take the screw sets apart by turning the nut counterclockwise until it detaches from the screw. First, we will attach the tank's bottom plate. Take the bottom plate and align the screw holes to the holes on the side of the stove. The folded edge with the pre-made holes should be facing down and aligned to the holes on the stove. Take a screw in your hand and put your hand through the large burner hole, then put the screw through the screw holes to attach the plate. Make sure the screw's head is inside the stove so that the nut can be mounted from outside. Repeat this with the other 2 screw sets. Once the tank's bottom plate is secure, place the stainless steel tank on the bottom plate, fitting it together nicely within the bottom plate's edges. To hold the water tank in place the metal tank holder around the top of the water tank and slot the sides into the metal holding pieces on the stove. Now you can use the lid to cover the tank. Once the water tank is in place, you need to reattach the adjustable airflow piece in the door, which you removed before filling the mud chamber. Take the airflow piece and screw it into the nut welded into the combustion chamber door, turning it clockwise until it is fully in and does not fall off. Now we are done assembling what we can do outside. We will do the last installation steps inside the house. Prepare the area of your home where you would like the new stove to be placed. Mostly, it is put in place where the old stove or open fireplace is, so you need to remove the old stove or open fireplace and prepare the area before you bring the new stove inside. 2 people should carry the stove into the house and place it on the ground where you want to install it. Make sure to position the stove so that the damper exhaust pipe is right below the area where the hole in the roof will be made later. It is important to ensure that no major wood beams of the house roof are in the way of where the exhaust pipe needs to go through the roof. Major wood beams should not be altered in this process because they are required for your home's structural soundness. You need to make sure that the stove is sitting on the ground as horizontally as possible. If it tilts when you touch it, you should level it either with mud or flat stones so that it lies evenly on the ground. The next step is to install the first two exhaust pipes. Make sure to put aside the third exhaust pipe, which has the two pre-cut slits at the top. The third exhaust pipe will be the last one to be installed. To install each pipe, you will need 4 screw sets, which means you need a total of 8 screw sets. As you did earlier, you first need to take the screw sets apart by turning the nut counterclockwise until it detaches from the screw. Take the first exhaust pipe and place it over the damper, making sure to align the holes on the exhaust pipe's flange with the holes on the damper's flange. Now take a screw and go under the damper and through both the damper screw hole and the exhaust pipe screw hole. Reattach the nut to the screw from the top, turning it clockwise to tighten it. Repeat this step 3 more times until 4 screw sets are holding the first exhaust pipe in place. Use the wrench to tighten the nuts. Now take the second exhaust pipe and put it on top of the first exhaust pipe, making sure to align the screw holes on the flanges. Attach it using 4 screw sets, just like you did with the first exhaust pipe. Once the second exhaust pipe is attached, you need to identify exactly where the hole in the roof needs to be made. Again, make sure that no major wood beams are in the way of where the exhaust pipe needs to go through the roof. Then mark where the hole needs to go. Use the metal stove covers to close the burners and also make sure the roti slot is closed and the stainless steel water tank is covered. Cover the exhaust pipe with a cloth. This is done to avoid debris from entering the stove from any exposed holes while you dig a hole through the roof for the exhaust pipe. Create a hole in the roof that is at least double the size of the diameter of the exhaust pipe. The hole in the roof must be large enough to ensure that the exhaust pipe will not touch any wood, which is a fire hazard. Now you will install the third exhaust pipe. You will need 4 screw sets for this step. Like you did before, detach the nuts from the screws by turning the nuts counterclockwise. Take the third exhaust pipe and put it through the roof's hole so that the top of the pipe is outside. Remember, the top of the third pipe has the 2 pre-cut slits on the side. Then place the bottom of the third exhaust pipe on top of the second, making sure to align the screw holes on the flanges. Using 4 screw sets, now attach the third exhaust pipe by repeating the steps you used to attach the first 2 exhaust pipes. Before moving on to the next step, ensure the exhaust pipe is as vertical as possible. Once the entire exhaust pipe is in a vertical position, the next step is to go to the roof and fill the hole with large and small stones so that the pipe does not touch any wooden beams all around. Once filled with stones, fill the rest with some leftover wet mud, which you use to fill the stove's mud insulation chamber. When it dries up, it thickens and insulates like cement. The last installation step is to install the rain cover. Place the metal rain cover on top of the exhaust pipe using the thin metal sheets attached on each side. Push the metal sheet through one of the pre-cut slits in the exhaust pipe. Once in, fold the metal sheet upward to hold it in place. Do the same thing with the other metal sheet in the second pre-cut slit. The installation process is now complete.